Welcome to this edition of Safety First. I'm your host, Tim Kelly. Today's topic, a very important one here in our community. We're going to be talking about Suffolk Project Lifesaver Search and Rescue. And to do that, we have two experts on the topic to join us today. We have Lieutenant Mason Copeland with the Suffolk Fire and Rescue Department and Robert Nelms, who is the president of the Volunteer Civilian Board of Directors with Project Lifesaver here in the city. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you, Tim.
Well, Lieutenant Copeland, let's start with you and tell us a little bit about what Project Lifesaver Search and Rescue is all about. What does it mean to the citizens here in the city of Suffolk? And just kind of give us an up-to-date about where we are with the project.
Okay, Tim, Project Lifesaver initially was founded in the late 90s. The program actually started in Chesapeake, Virginia. The program has grown by leaps and bounds. We got involved in 2001 with our first client. The program's grown to a point now it's in 46 states and in 4 other countries. Basically what it is a program designed to enable us electronically search for individuals that have disorders or diseases that cause them to wander and get lost. Alzheimer's patients, individuals with other types of dementia, children with, within the autistic spectrum, Down syndrome, and again, anyone that has any issue that will cause them to wander and get lost. Right. The electronic search has enabled the departments in all across the country to expedite searches. When you're talking about these searches for Alzheimer's patients, for instance, their chance of survival is only 50% after 24 hours. To give you a good example, we were able to cut our search time down from 9 hours for a live find on an Alzheimer's patient to less than 30 minutes with this program. So it's really helped us from that standpoint. It brings loved ones home alive. But from the standpoint of the bean counter, which is very important, it cuts expense. It's a very inexpensive way to provide a service that's very beneficial.
Sure. So. Now, what is entailed with this? So if you have a person who is part of the program, and again, they have a monitoring unit, is it on their person? And how does that process work? And what kind of equipment are we talking about that's out there?
Well, what we're looking at is each of the clients wear a transmitter, personal locator, that has a frequency that is dedicated for that individual. Most individuals wear them on their wrist. They can be worn on the ankle, this type thing, depending upon comfort and this type with each client. It emits a signal that we're able to track with receivers. The equipment that we have, every fire station in our city now has a minimum of 2 sets of tracking or receiving equipment to receive and track the signal. When you're looking at expense, which is another thing, the transmitters, we have 2 different types in the field. We have a 30-day and we have a 60-day. The 30-day transmitter costs us approximately $300, and it's between $325 and $340 now for the 60-day transmitter. Again, we're talking equipment that's very necessary for the program to work. The receivers, on the other hand, that we track the signals with, cost us anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 per unit. It's important to understand that some things go up in price as time goes on. These have actually come down. When we first got involved with the program in 2001, it would cost us approximately $2,100 per set of equipment. So the equipment's actually gotten better, but for some reason, which we don't question, has gotten cheaper. So it's more affordable. In our favor there, more affordable. Definitely. And when I say more affordable, you have to understand that this equipment is not funded by the city, state, or federal government, which is why we brought Robert and our board in.
Well, Robert, perfect transition. Thanks for setting us up there, Lieutenant. Talk about the role of the board and your job as president and what the board's objective is really to do to help this program move forward.
Thank you, Tim. When Mason came to me about 2.5 years ago and asked if I would work with the civilian board, he told me the story about Suffolk Project Lifesaver, and he asked me then, are you familiar with the program, and did you know that Suffolk had it? And I said, no, and I have lived here all of my life and been pretty active in the community. And he said, that's exactly why we need a board. We need to increase awareness. We need to raise the funds to buy the tracking equipment, the transmitters, the bands, the batteries, and by so doing, hopefully increase the served community. So when we launched the board 2.5 years ago, I think there were 9 served patients at that time. We have 39 at this time. So we have been successful in raising money, in increasing awareness, and by increasing the served community, which has been our mission. We are really fortunate that we have a great partnership with the fire department. We're very thankful for the role the city plays in that because, as Mason said, by what we do, we are able to save taxpayers money and provide a really critical service for people who may wander.
Sure.
But at the same time, without the partnership with the fire department, we couldn't do it.
Correct.
So it works very, very well. It's a great symbiotic relationship, and so we continue to raise money. And as a matter of fact, we are in the process of putting together a fundraising letter at the time, as a matter of fact, and we're going to be reaching out to all of the churches in Suffolk and to civic organizations to hopefully encourage them to put us on their mission project for 2014.
Right. And of course, I guess as both of you have said, it's both not only a fundraising effort to get these resources in place so we can, again, provide the services out there, but it's the education part.
Awareness.
Letting people know that this program exists, how you can tap into it, and what's required. The units themselves, we talked a little bit about. Does the person wearing one or using one, they don't have to necessarily turn anything on in the event that they get lost? It's sending out a signal, so then therefore, as you said, y'all can track them in that instance, right?
Right, Tim. It's constantly emitting a signal. Now, again, with that being said, a concern a lot of new caregivers have is going to cause us make a sound that's going to irritate. And they hear nothing. They hear nothing. They see nothing. The caregiver is actually given a small box to use to test it once a day. And the only time they know it's working is when they hit that test box because it emits a light that lets them know that it is functioning properly. And then we go back out. We check on them either once a month or once every 2 months. We do a battery change, brand new battery, inspect it, make sure everything's functioning properly, making sure they're good with it and this type thing. So that's another part of the puzzle that really helps her from a caregiver standpoint.
Sure.
And I want to add too that most of the caregivers have been in it for a long time have come back to us and said, you know, it's given us a great peace of mind knowing that if they wander and they get out, that we've got means to get them back quickly. So.
Indeed. Now, Robert, as far as with the fundraising efforts of the board, what are some of the things that y'all have done? And you talked about the letter that's going out to reach out to the nonprofit groups, the civic organizations, the churches, to let them know really that the program is out there again. And also to possibly, like you said, get them in their fundraising efforts because this is really a community-wide thing that can touch a lot of people in a lot of different ways.
Absolutely, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about it.
Sure.
We had this year, our big fundraiser was in April. We did a second chance prom out at the Planners Club, and it was a tremendously successful event. It took months and months of planning, but we have a volunteer board and we have a really fabulous board. They all work very hard and are all a critical part of the pieces that we need to put together to make this happen. We have done wine tastings with the assistance of several businesses here in town, and we'd encourage any other business that might want to help us with that. It's a great cause, and every penny that we raise is spent here in Suffolk for equipment and to serve this community, and it's all a very critical need for those who wander.
Indeed. Now, if someone is watching this program and they would like to get involved, they would like to possibly assist with the fundraiser or donate themselves, how can they go about doing that?
Well, the first thing they could do is contact us via Mason is our contact number. Mason, what is your phone number?
Well, my number is, of course, is area code 757. The number is 754-8787.
Okay.
And it stays on 24/7, 365. That's one of the biggies. If they wanted to make a contribution or mail in some type of correspondence, it's care of 300 Kings Fork Road, Suffolk 23434. So that's two contact numbers right off.
Got it.
And we do have a Facebook page, so they can contact us through that as well, through social media. So.
Sure. Well, getting that information out there is the key component here. Let's talk about maybe any success stories with this project here in the city of Suffolk, or even in the area where someone has wandered off in this situation. They've been part of Project Lifesaver, and we could talk about something that happened that really connected the dots and got everybody together and got that person safely back home.
Well, I'm glad you asked, because I have a couple of stories.
Okay.
First and foremost, I want you to understand it. As I mentioned before, Project Lifesaver is in 46 states.
Right.
Most every community in the city, in the state of Virginia has a program, or at least a neighboring county or city will have it. And not too awful long ago, a couple of years back, we received a call from our dispatch that there was a child in the autistic spectrum that was a Project Lifesaver client from another jurisdiction, another city,
Right.
neighboring city, that had gotten lost in our city. And the way the system works is all they had to do was get us the transmitter information,
Right.
frequency number, and from time we marked on scene, we had him in less than 10 minutes. And the boy was back in the woods, the individual was back in the woods, but we were able to bring him back safe and sound. So it's a good working relationship from a mutual aid standpoint with other counties and cities. In our own city, we had one particular incident where we had one of our clients wandered and got the call, and he had been with family members in Walmart here in Suffolk. And he had gotten away from him, and they searched the store and couldn't find him. We were in the parking lot, and law enforcement was assisting with the search in the parking lot. And as soon as I pulled in the lot, I had a signal of the transmitter, and quickly realized he was still in the store.
Right.
And of course, the family members and the officer said, "Well, we've searched." And I said, "Well, let's go get him." And sure enough, he got tired of waiting and walked off, and we're sitting in the nail salon. And we found him.
Right,
We were able to
right.
retrieve him quickly.
Right.
And they were very impressed, as well as the
Sure,
law enforcement
sure.
officers, at how quickly and how precise
Yes.
the transmitters
Yes.
operate. So.
Now, if someone's watching the program and they have a relative or someone that they know that might want to get involved in the program from the user perspective, how would they go about doing that? And again, I know we talked about the funding that needs to be there to supplement this, but how does that work? What does that process entail?
Well, as far as contact,
Yes.
same contact information, and we have some documentation we ask them to fill out. There's a form they have to fill out, which is a background on them. Because you have to understand, when you're talking dementia, primarily Alzheimer's,
Yes.
we like to know a lot about their past, because the way the disease works is they lose short-term memory. They resort back to something from years back.
Right.
So we have some paperwork they need to fill out. It takes a little bit of time.
Okay.
Individuals that can't afford it, we have means of covering them. Scholarship them into the program.
Sure.
We turn no one away because they can't afford it.
Right.
So,
Again, that's where the
that's where
board
they come
comes
in.
into play there.
Yes, yes. And that is a great service that
Yes.
we're able to do by raising the money and the help that we get from the community. We've gotten grants here in the community from OBC Healthcare Foundation, from numerous people. And one thing that I know Mason would agree with me on this, we really like to highlight the pilot clubs, because
Right.
the pilot clubs were the cornerstone supporters of this program back when nobody knew what it was. The pilot clubs got involved and provided the initial funding, and they continue to be a very important part of this, our fundraising efforts, and we appreciate what they do greatly, along with everyone else. And we would like to just continue to increase the number of donors,
Right.
so that we can increase the number of patients that we
Indeed.
can help.
And again, it's sort of like an insurance policy of sort in the event that something occurs, and it's great that we have success stories, and that's what you want to hear about the program working as it's intended to. And Lieutenant Copeland, one other thing to note, certainly it's not just we get the units, we put them in place. There's training involved as far as with fire and rescue staff
Exactly.
to go out there and prepare themselves to know how to use the equipment on their end in the event we have a situation where we have a call out, correct?
That's exactly right. I'm an instructor for the International, and I have been all over the East Coast, train other sheriff's offices, police departments, and so forth. And so I'm an in-house instructor as well.
Sure.
I keep our individuals that work for us trained and make sure to keep their training up.
Right.
So yes, that's a big part of it. There's some costs incorporated with the training, but for the most part, we're able to do it at very, very low cost at all.
Sure.
Which leads to something else too, that the life of the equipment. You know, we're in the process of putting together a fundraiser for 2014,
Right.
as he mentioned,
Right.
and we're at a point where we're having to replace some of the older equipment. As I mentioned, we've had the program since 2001, and some of the equipment has been way out of warranty, and now we've had a couple of units here recently fail, and they can't even be repaired anymore.
Right.
So that's another thing that we want people to understand, that the stuff doesn't last forever.
Right.
And
of course,
as technology improves,
Sure.
those old units really become extinct.
Right.
Absolutely.
So that now we are working. We've been successful in raising the funds to get at least 2 tracking devices in every fire department here in Suffolk, which is critical for the search and process. But now we are in the process of raising money to replace old equipment.
Sure.
And as Mason was talking about, training is something that's very important. And as important as the fire and rescue is, and it is of critical importance to this program, because of funding issues, you know, the city is strapped for money just like everyone else. So we have been able to raise money to buy search and rescue equipment
Right.
for the guys and girls that actually do the searches and rescues for the fire department. In addition to all the tracking equipment, the transmitters, the bands, the batteries, we raise the money from individuals in the city, just like you,
Right.
and so we rely on the people of the city and their generosity.
Well, it's a great partnership of both of you. You noted the fact that the board is really supplementing as far as what Suffolk Fire and Rescue is able to do. All right, gentlemen, before we wrap up today's program, I want to give you both an opportunity to talk about kind of a last pitch to the folks watching the program, both for people to get involved, either from a user perspective or certainly from a donor perspective, I should say, with regard to the finances. Gentlemen, I don't know who wants to go first.
Well, I will.
Okay.
First of all, everyone should know that when we're talking about dementia, Alzheimer's, any other type of dementia, no one is completely immune from it. So there's always a chance. Children are born every day in the autistic spectrum or with Down syndrome. Traumatic brain injury is another. We've had clients in our program with TBI. You never know when it's going to happen. It's a service that helps us all. Whether you directly feel it or not, the fact that we talked about earlier, the monies help save taxpayers money in the long haul. So if you live in the city and pay taxes,
Right.
it's very beneficial.
Sure.
But understand that this program is very important, and that if you're just helping us with awareness to get the word out, if you want to make a donation, no matter how small, it costs us about $5 a month to go out and change a battery on these 30-day transmitters.
Right.
You know, this type thing. So the need for the program is obviously there. If you watch statistics, the rate of Alzheimer's is growing by leaps and bounds. The rate of children being born in the autistic spectrum has grown. When I first got involved in 2001, they were telling us 1 out of every 160 children born were born and somewhere on the autistic spectrum. The most recent figures I've seen is 1 out of every 99. So that shows you how much more prominent that's become. They're predicting that the Alzheimer's can go from anywhere from, right now, somewhere between 5.3 and 7 million Americans, depending on what study you look at, to by 2030, they said the number could double or triple. So the potential and the need is definitely there. It's something we're able to bring family members home, and it's a peace of mind. So
Indeed. Robert?
Well, as people are listening to this and watching this, I'd like to encourage you, please, to think about donating to Suffolk Project Lifesaver. You can contact us through our email address, which is SPLSAR, short for Suffolk Project Lifesaver Search and Rescue, SPLSAR@hotmail.com. And please consider us for Christmas and for the upcoming your budget for 2014. We have, in essence, there are 3 groups that we look to for, or statistical areas for donation to make things simple for people who would like to give.
Right.
$60 for the year takes care of batteries and bands for a patient for the entire year. $60 could make a difference for people who don't have the money to pay for the program. We rely on those fundraising efforts to basically supplement those people. $360 for 1 year will take care of bringing a new patient into the program. That takes care of their transmitter and their batteries and bands for the year. And our price just went up for our complete kit. It's now $1,560. Will take care of a complete kit, which means the transmitter for the patient, the bands, the batteries, and the tracking device that goes into the fire department and that the search and rescue personnel use. So those 3 levels, you can see how they can significantly help. And for individuals, for businesses, for civic organizations, for churches, we're hopeful that they will consider us for the upcoming year and any of those amounts or some other.
Indeed, indeed. And again, it's a great program here in the city of Suffolk, a great partnership between the board and certainly fire and rescue working together to bring this service out there to citizens and make it something that certainly can you talk about the financial impact for the city, but it's also certainly, more importantly, the impact on the individual and their family with getting that person safely home in a timely fashion.
That's
because you
what it's all
noted the
about.
time statistics, certainly the shorter the window, the better chance of survival in the end run. So.
And Mason, you might want to say your phone number
Exactly.
again.
Yeah, let's
One
get
more
that
time.
one more time.
It's 757-754-8787.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, thank you again for being with us today on this edition of Safety First. Project Lifesaver, a great program here in the city of Suffolk, and we spent, of course, time on today's program talking about that and how you, from a couple of different ways, can get involved and really make a difference. And again, thank you for watching this edition of Safety First.